in our communities. I'm happy to be here today as the regional coordinator for Raising Women's Voices through New Voices Pittsburgh, Women of Color for Reproductive Justice. Please give us a round of applause. In the last 3 days, we worked tirelessly to bring the issue of human rights and healthcare and women's rights to the center of this community, and we're glad to say that we've done that today with you being here, so please give it up for yourselves. This effort would not have been possible without the support of all of the organizations who are here today. Now I'm going to attempt to do the list, but please, please, please forgive me if I don't remember everyone. ACLU of Pennsylvania, Action United, Coalition of Labor Union Women, all the chapters of National Organization for Women, Women and Girls Foundation, Women's Law Project. Did I do it? Did I miss anyone? Indie Media. And Healthcare for America Now. So I don't know about you, but there's an attack going on against women in this country. And if we don't stand up, we're going back.
That's right.
If we don't stand up, we're going to lose the little bit of rights that we do have.
Yeah.
If we don't stand up, we're no longer in control of our bodies, our sexuality, our work, or our reproduction. And I'm not happy about that. Are you?
No!
In fact, it pisses me the bleep off. And I know a lot of you have felt that way, but the best action or motion we can fight this battle with is standing up for what we believe, for who we are, and calling the people out who are really trying to undermine our humanity. Because that's what it comes down to.
That's right.
It's not about protecting life. It's about jeopardizing life. It's about jeopardizing our health. It's about violating our human rights. And so we will not stand for this.
No.
We won't stand for this, not in this community, and not on our watch. Can I get some support? Amen. Can I get my shade? So it is up to us. Just like every time we've seen these attacks at the state level and at the federal level, in my short life, I've never seen this type of attack on women.
That's right.
And I've never seen so many bills to institutionalize oppression against women. And so it's up to us. And we are glad that you're here today. So we're going to keep this moving. I'm going to be the MC of sorts. But I like to bring up what I like to call her an oldie but goodie. Jean, the woman, Clark.
I want to thank Tasha and all the New Voices women who are just incredible, who kicked us in the butt to get moving. A whole lot of us knew that this was happening and we're just sitting around wringing our hands saying we were too busy to do anything, but they called us to action, and boy, did they do it well. This is birth control, according to Congress and our state legislature. This is a surgical device, the only thing covered by health care if Congress and state legislatures have their way. And this Allegheny County Medical Examiner's Office is where they think it's perfectly okay for all of us to wind up in. After dying in this alley or some other alley, according to the Congress and the state legislatures, well, they could kiss that shit goodbye. The right wing took control in November, saying they were going to fix the economy and create jobs. They didn't tell us the jobs were all going to be created at funeral homes. They're making extreme cuts. They're cutting all family planning funding. They're attacking abortion rights. They're attacking basic health care for women. They are attacking everything they possibly can to make sure that we are barefoot and pregnant and kept out of the job market and kept out of education. But you know what? They are not in step with the American people. A poll of voters at the last election, on election day, found that 86% of Democrats, 75% of independents, and 58% of Republicans that abortion should be a woman's decision in consultation with her husband. And strong majorities in all parties believe that our legislatures should focus on greater access to birth control, comprehensive sex ed, and improving childbirth outcomes. I have a friend from Vegas who says these guys are playing past the money. They're making bets that they can't meet. But it's up to us to call their bluff. So we have to make sure that everybody knows what's going on. We must sound the alarm. Every one of us must talk to 100 people. We must email. We must tweet. We must do everything we can. We must educate our sisters and brothers. We must demand our rights and our dignity. We must not beg. No matter how uncomfortable it makes us, we must confront the men in power. And as Abigail Adams said, we are determined to foment a revolution. And we have the weapon. Just like in Egypt, everybody take out your smartphone and start tweeting. Start calling the cell phone of your legislators. Start calling their offices. Start showing up. Use this weapon. And also use the weapon you have in May. Any candidate who wants your vote must answer the question loud and clear. Does she or he trust women? Does she or he think that we are full citizens? And if the answer is anything but yes, we must vote them out and send them back where they came from, to the caves. Yeah. We won't go back. We must fight back. We won't go back. We must fight back. We won't go back. We must fight back. We won't go back. We must fight back.
Give it up for Jean Clark. National Organization for Women. You fired up? Yeah. I can't hear you. You fired up? Yeah. Fired up? Yeah. Now it's time to rise up. All right. Say rise up. 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 If they can do it in Egypt, we can do it in Pennsylvania. Rise up.
Oh, that's right.
Now I'd like to bring Christina Can from Women's Law Project. Women's Law Project is a great ally and leader in the women's rights movement in this state, advancing reproductive rights and reproductive justice for all women. Christina, give her a round of applause.
Hey everybody, how you doing? Let me tell you a little bit about the status quo.
I hate it.
It could be worse, and it's going to be worse if this legislation at the state and at the federal level passes. Right now, there are no restrictions on whether health insurance companies can cover abortion procedures if they choose. Currently, 80% of health insurance plans do cover abortion. Do you know how many will cover it if Senate Bill 3 passes? None. None. Abortion is a procedure that 1 in 3 women will need in her lifetime. It is the most common medical procedure for women in the United States, and they want to stigmatize it, and they want to say, you cannot control your body. Right now, the status quo is that $300 million goes to family planning centers across the United States for services like birth control, like STI testing, like comprehensive sex education. But if the legislatures have their way, that will dwindle to zero. It will have a huge impact on family planning centers across the United States, several of whom are our clients here in Pennsylvania. The status quo right now says that when a woman goes to an emergency room and needs to end a pregnancy because it will cause her to die, the doctor can do what he or she needs to do to save that woman's life. If federal legislation passes, that is not going to be the case anymore. Hospitals can deny life-saving care to women because of what they call their conscience. I think that we here have our own consciences, and it does not include letting women die. It does not include denying the ability to control our bodies. So if you have a conscience, let's hear it. Please write to your legislators, sign the petitions that are circulating right now, call them, do everything you can. We need to rise up. We need to stop these attacks on women's health.
Rise up.
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 So, speaking of rising up, we have a great leader in this community who's going to speak to us about the impact of these bills on low-income women, on women of color, on young women, and she is none other than Lucille Prater-Holiday, Chair of Action United. Please welcome Lucille. She shares some words with us.
Yeah, Lucille.
You go, Lucille!
Woo! Hey, everybody, can you believe this?
No.
Believe this? This is incredible. We should have the million vagina march and just march on Congress and lay there with our names gapped over and say, is this what you want? Here it is. Take it. It's yours. I can't believe. Can you believe there were maybe a world without Head Start, without WIC, all the programs that I took advantage of when I was a single mother and had 2 children to raise? I needed that WIC. I needed to put my children in Head Start. And they're talking about cutting these very vital programs that are more vital in the low and moderate income communities than anywhere else in the world. We need those programs. Many of our families survive solely off of programs like that, and they are talking about cutting them and other programs. I'm going to tell you some of the things that they're talking about doing. Entirely eliminating all federal funding for family planning and reproductive health. In other words, Republicans who oppose abortion are doing everything they can to encourage more unwanted pregnancies while attacking Planned Parenthood, the most respected provider of women's health care in the country. Now, can you believe that one? It chopped $1.1 billion from Head Start. $1.1 billion. That's a lot of children. That's a lot of families. It cut $758 million from WIC, the Women, Infants, and Children's Program, created by the Nixon administration that provides supplemental food to infants, as well as health care referrals and nutrition education for low-income pregnant and postpartum women. It reduces the maternal and child health block grants by $210 million. This program, a descendant of one created during the Harding administration, supports children with special needs, provides newborn screening and genetic services, and funds lead poisoning and injury prevention. It slashes $1.3 billion from community health centers that provide affordable health care to low-income women, men, and their children. Last year, Republicans claimed we didn't need health care reform because community health centers provide care to people with low incomes. Whoa! This year, they are ready to slash funding for them. We cannot let this happen. If we let this happen, there will be people on the street, more people than you have ever seen in
your life, comparable to a third world country. We cannot let this happen. We have to fight, fight, fight for our rights. Women's rights, the right for a woman to choose what she does with her body, and the right for her and her children to be able to survive in this world. Thank you.
Rise up. 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 Thank you, Lucille. Wasn't she awesome? So we have to remember that we have to affirm a woman's right to seek an abortion, and at the same time, we have to affirm all the choices that women have to make throughout their lives, not just for themselves, but for their families and for their communities. Women know best. Yes. Women know best what we need for ourselves. So I don't know, if you haven't received a copy of all the legislation happening in Harrisburg and at the federal level, Jess, our wonderful volunteer, she's going to pass them around so you can see them. It's absolutely remarkable how we want to cut Title 10, which is the nation's largest family planning service that we have available for this country. Is $327 million enough to ensure that women's rights and health care are important in this country? Is that enough? $327 million will never be enough to make sure that we can enjoy the reproductive freedoms that are important to us. So we must rise up. We must be able to live our lives the best way we know how. Rise up. 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 Let them hear you. Rise up. 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 They can't stop us, y'all. So Title 10 is important, and there are so many bills to ensure that our rights, that we don't have access to the resources that we need. So next I want to bring up Ganny Nabimbi from ACLU of Pennsylvania. Please give her a round of applause.
So nice to be here today with all of you. It's nice to rise up in the streets. So nice to be here. I think, we all have used email, we've used Twitter, we've used Facebook to get the word out about these terrible bills, but it's so nice to be here in the streets, rising up and talking about it, expressing our First Amendment rights, and using our civil liberties. Can I get my civil liberties back? Yes. Women have to have the right to choose. No one can legislate what we do with our own bodies. That's our fundamental right as women. And it's something we need to stand strong and protect like none other. Because it's so important for women to be able to have control over their health, to know that our rights should be guaranteed just like the rights of men. This is about equal protection. This is about us having equal control over our own bodies. Can I get my civil liberties back?
Yeah.
So we really need to understand that the reason why they are attacking Title 10 funding is because it funds programs like Planned Parenthood. Even though they're not able to fund abortions through the funding, they're trying to attack the programs because they give effective family planning methods and because they do offer abortions through other funding. That is not allowed, and that's not okay. We need to stand up for our rights. We need to stand up for our civil liberties. We need to know, every woman needs to know that it is her right to choose. It is her right, and it should always be her right. We need to rise up. We need to stand up. Use every contact you have. Use every outlet you know. Thank you all for being here.
up. Rise 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 up. I can hear you in the back. Rise up. 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 All right, and last but certainly not least is Heather Arnay, Chief Executive Officer at the Women and Girls Foundation. Please give her a round of applause.
First, thanks again to New Voices who so quickly mobilized this action, and to all the agencies who work together, and for all of you to come out. Thank you for being here. But today is not the end. It is perhaps mostly a beginning of a very important struggle, and we need all of you. Whether you're connected with an agency or not, whether you're connected to an organization or not. If you are, then all of us need to be mobilizing our constituencies. But if you aren't, as an individual, thank goodness, here in this country, we still have some rights. And those rights involve coming out to rallies, but they also involve writing letters and calling our legislators and showing up on their doorsteps at their district offices. If you can't afford to go to Harrisburg or DC, they all have offices in their districts, and they need to hear from you. Today, the House might indeed vote for this bill. Then it goes on to the Senate, and that's, Natasha asked me to talk about next steps. If it passes today in the House, we need to make sure our senators hear from us on this issue, right? Here in this state, we know we have one senator who is in favor of family planning, and we have one senator who might not be, but both of them represent everybody who's standing here today. And they aren't there to vote just for themselves, they are there to represent us. They need to hear from us, right? And then hopefully that bill will die in the Senate. But if it doesn't, then it will go to our president's desk, and he will need to hear from us, because his budget looks very different, but he doesn't get to put his name on his budget, right? We have this wonderful democracy. There's lots of good things about it. This is a messy part, and this bill could end up on his desk, and then he's going to have a choice. Does he shut down this government in order to protect women's lives? And we need to let him know that we have his back if he has to make that decision. So that's critically important. So we all have a lot of work to do. You know, the Clintons, both Bill and Hillary, used to talk about abortion being safe, rare, and legal. And I remember hearing that and thinking that was a really important message. And several speakers talked today about eliminating federal funding for family planning. If any of the people who wrote this legislation really cared about decreasing the terminations of pregnancy in this country, they would be increasing family planning support. I got some statistics for you to think about. Family planning services nationally helped women prevent 1.94 million unwanted pregnancies just last year, right? Just last year. So if we really care about decreasing the number of abortions in this country, let's increase family planning. The way that I was introduced to these issues was as a young child. And my grandmother and my mother were involved in this struggle. And I once asked my grandmother why my great-grandmother had been involved in Planned Parenthood when I was growing up. And she said, because growing up, I watched my mother, she was a factory worker, and she had 4 abortions. And I was shocked. And I said, why? How did that happen? And my grandmother said to me, Heather, what do you think poor women did before birth control? What do you think poor women did before birth control? I don't want to find out again. So we need to all rise up on this issue, as Latasha says. Listen out. If you aren't already on New Voices mailing list, please get on the mailing list so you can stay informed, and please leave the rally and call the U.S. House and call the state Senate and call the U.S. Senate and send a letter to President Obama and make sure that you want them all to know that eliminating family planning is not a way to decrease abortions in this country, and it certainly is not a way to bring about economic recovery or increase jobs. So thank you for coming. Rise up. Rise up. Rise up. Rise up. Rise up.
gathered today. Look at all the people who are here, standing on the foundation of human rights and standing against hypocrisy. It's such hypocrisy that we want to make sure that women don't have access to the resources that they need for themselves, for their families, and for their communities. We want reproductive justice. We want human rights, and we want it now. So we want justice. When do we want it? Now! We want health care. When do we want it? Now! We want human rights. When do we want it? Now! Rise up.
Rise up!
Thank you for being here today. Please sign up on your list. Phyllis, did you want to say something?
Yes, please.
Okay.
Yeah.
Phyllis Weatherby, National Organization for Women.
You haven't had enough yet today. If you haven't had enough yet today, you're invited to our chapter's meeting in Wilkinsburg Borough Building at 7 tonight. See you there. Bye.
Thank you, Phyllis.
Thank you.
And if you didn't get one of these, come find me and I'll give you a sheet of paper that summarizes the legislation that we're speaking out against today, and ways that you can contact your representatives and senators in opposition to these bills.
We're going to set up a listserv and put the